It's Sunday night. I'm in my Megan Thee Stallion shirt. I love her. When I saw her in concert, she does look like that, but better. I was transfixed. I was in love. I would give her all of my life savings. Megan, if you ever see this. Yeah, so I just thought it'd be fun to like sit around in my Megan Thee Stallion shirt and get this podcast done. And let's get into it. Another Monday with you guys. Wow, I have missed you so much. So I have some important updates. I did finally get a new laptop. If you have been listening to this podcast since the beginning, you'll know that 2017 MacBook, it's not dead in the sense that like it doesn't work. It's dead in the sense that like it did not have enough storage. So I did it. I finally got a new laptop. I'm excited to see where this takes us. Hopefully YouTube videos upload a bit better. I wanted to address some like housekeeping stuff with the podcast before we went on. So I've been getting a lot of questions about the paid feature on Spotify. If you didn't know, I don't believe Apple has this feature, but on Spotify you can pay to listen to the episode, and that just means that it comes without ads. There's no difference between the paid and the unpaid episodes except for that there's ads running. One policy that I want to keep as long as I'm making content, and just to be fully transparent, is I wouldn't ask you guys to do anything that I wouldn't do. Presently, I have never paid for a Patreon in my life. I've never paid for Substack. I've never paid for special tiers of content. And so I feel a bit icky asking you guys to do something I wouldn't do. But I do pay to not listen to ads on like YouTube or certain podcasts that I listen to because it's worth it for me. So if it's worth it for you and you want to go ahead and listen to this podcast ad free, you're more than welcome to. If you don't want to and you just kind of want to listen to the ads and pay for it for free, that's totally fine. Candidly, I'm not in this to make money, and I also I could not live off of this as a full-time job. It's not particularly lucrative. I do make a little bit of money from advertising, and I think the subscriptions I made like $30, which is cool, by the way. Thank you. But it's not like a lucrative endeavor for me, and that's totally fine. I'm not in this to make money. I'm in this for the fuck of it. Like, I'm in this for the love of the game. This is just a really important hobby to me, which has been a principle that has allowed me to be more free in my content. I get a lot of questions about launching a Patreon and also why I never followed through with the Substack. So let's just address the fact that, first of all, I just don't have the time. I have a very busy job. I also, I like spending a lot of time with my friends and family, and yeah, I have a busy social schedule. So usually uploading the podcast, like that's just time that I kind of steal from my sleep schedule. I would not have the free time, even if I did like change my mind about Patreon or Substack, which, oh my God, you can hear Matthew freaking out in the back. No, hold on. He's playing with the camera thing as like a toy. Oh, ew, it's all wet, Matthew. Even if I did change my mind about the paid features, which I would only change my mind once I started subscribing to those services, I just don't have the time. Like, I do not have the time to come up with extra bonus content. This is already stretching me pretty thin, and I don't say that in any sort of way to make anyone feel bad. I just, yeah, it's kind of hard with work to put this all together, and I do this all by myself. I've mentioned that before, but I don't have a production company. I don't have editors or assistants. If you have been with me since the first episode, you know that there was a point where you guys were having to explain like basic microphone terms to me on live, and shout out to y'all for riding with me till the wheels fell off when this podcast literally sounded like it was being filmed underwater. That was crazy. I will never forget how dedicated some of the early fans were, and it means so much to me, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, to have that type of fan base and support. Someone on live asked about, I went live to do my makeup and chat with you guys, and then I got banned. And I didn't even say anything crazy. Most of the time I deserve the ban, but this time I was just talking about this exact topic that, like, a lot of the creators who are able to put out that kind of stuff, they do this as their full-time job. This is never going to be my full-time job for a myriad of reasons. First of all, I didn't go to school to just quit and then start making YouTube videos. Second of all, I like having a steady paycheck and guaranteed health insurance. Also, having been in the creator space for a while and knowing people who do content creation full time, it's not all it's cracked up to be. I'm not saying that it's like a difficult job in the way that I don't know, doing like literally anything else is obviously more difficult, but it is very psychologically taxing. When the internet becomes your boss, your relationship to uploading content changes. Right now, this is something that's super fun to me. I look forward to it. I love the interaction with you guys, but if making you guys like me was the difference between me not having food in my fridge and not being able to pay my rent, not being able to pay my car, and not being able to, continue to save up for like a house or plan for all the financial moves that I want to make in the next couple of years, my relationship to you guys would change. That is honestly the biggest difference that you see in like, why are influencers so different? Because they need you to like them. They're not going to get paid without it. In the same way that you need your boss to like you, or at least think that you're doing, well at your job, good at your job, well at your job. I don't know. I'm not the grammar police. Don't call Grammarly on me. The internet becomes your boss. That's why so many content creators like really crash the fuck out when people start turning against them. It's not because they're narcissistic monsters who want everyone to like them. I think that when you're on the internet, you have to develop a very thick skin very quickly. It's because you saying all these horrible and atrocious things about them and making it seem like they're the worst creator in the world and blah, 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 that affects their bottom line. Like, they're not going to eat if you randomly decide that you're going to boycott their videos. That's why it's such a big deal. I don't ever want to be in that position. I also don't ever want to feel like I'm coming on here and this doesn't feel like work. And the times where I felt like, hey, like maybe I don't want to be doing this because of illness, because I need a little break. Twice now I've taken breaks at the end of the year just because I needed a reset and a refresh to find things to talk about, to keep it fun and exciting. I can do that because this has no bearing on my finances. I love doing this. I would do it completely for free, even if it wasn't lucrative. Hey, it'd be cool if I could make money from this, but I'm also very comfortable without it. I wanted to make that clear because I've been getting a lot of questions about it and why the tiered content isn't coming out, and it never will come out. Yeah. So I appreciate all the inquiries. If you'd like to support me and subscribe to the podcast, you totally can. I went back and forth with thinking I was just going to switch it to like, you can just make little donations if you wanted to, but then I was like, people should still get something out of it. So you can listen to it ad-free. I've been told that the Spotify ads are a little bit annoying. I don't actually know though, because I do not listen to my own podcast. That's not a bad thing to admit. No, like I listen to it when I record it. I gotta take it. I also feel like it puts this weird pressure on you to be brand friendly. I could not say half of the stuff that I say with conviction if I cared that like, oh, so-and-so's not going to send me a package. I don't get packages. I'd love to get packages. But I talk too much shit. Talking a lot of shit has saved me in a lot of situations. Somebody asked me my opinion on flued out culture and like what my experience with being flued out is. Some of the people who listen to this podcast are white, so if you don't know what being flued out is, it's a term to refer to typically a man with money flying you to a city to hang out. Yes, it includes sex. Everyone pretends like it doesn't include sex, but like it totally does. Anyway, no man ever would try to fly me out. And here's the thing. I obviously think I'm very pretty. I think I'm very beautiful. My username everywhere is Hot Weird Girl. I obviously think very highly of my physical appearance. But I'm not a good woman. I am, exceptionally mouthy. And you have to understand that, like, while some people may have adopted, like, man-hating and making fun of boys for fun as, like, an internet personality, you have to understand that when I was 15 years old, about 4 years before I would ever see a boy with his shirt... I'm sorry. 4 years before I would ever see a boy with his shirt off, I had this personal saying... and I would tell all my friends this in high school. Again, had no sort of intimacy experience, which is normal for that age. But I was like, every time, a girl goes down on a guy and then he doesn't go back down on her, like an angel dies. And I had that like put on my laptop as like a sticker because I didn't know how to make it on a sticker on the internet. I remember my friend referring to a guy, she's like, he was a man whore. And I was like, that implies that the only kind of whores can be girls. And I was like, that's just not been true in my experience. What experience would that be? Who fucking knows? But Alexia was saying that at like 15. Like when I was 8, I was writing a manifesto on like, should boys be allowed on the island? I still consider the year in middle school when I had to only be friends with the boys because none of the girls would talk to me. How did this story go? Okay. some people will say I was wrong in this situation. Some people will say I was right. You can chime in the comments. When I was in middle school, I was friends with the quote-unquote popular girls, and then I told one of the girls, who we'll call A, I was like, we need to go shopping for some new clothes. We dress like little kids. This was in the 6th grade. And it was true. We were wearing like Jamboree, and everyone else was wearing like Aeropostale, Abercrombie and Fitch. And I was like, we need to like step our game up. We look ridiculous. Okay, she took that offensively, which I said, I did not say you, I said we. Like, I was also dissing myself. My mom was still picking my outfits. Sheila loved to pick my outfits, okay? She loved a little Jamboree matching 2-piece thing, and she loved to make me match with my younger siblings, and then put us all in the car and take pictures of us, like, on the way to school and be like, my kids are matching. She doesn't have social media. She's never had social media, so she was just taking it for the fuck of it. This is also a woman who, Matthew, oh, all right, I'm shutting this down. Matthew, say hello to your adoring fans and say goodbye, because we are going into the other room. And some of you may say, Alexia, that's so mean. That's so mean. He knocked my camera over. My camera fell to the ground. Whew. This piece of equipment was too expensive, okay? You cannot give in to every obese cat's whims. Especially not that obese little thing. We're codependent. He's fine. I should show you guys a video of him snoring. Every night he puts his head on my silk pillowcase, belly up, and snores like a grown man. It's terrible. Okay, anyway, where was I going with this story before Matthew interrupted? So, yeah, my mom loved to put us in matching clothes and do little matching photo shoots with us, and I was dressed like a toddler. I mean, granted, I was also 11, and I was, like, very underweight. Like, I remember asking my mom, I was like, can I go to, like, Abercrombie and Fitch? She's like, maybe when you weigh 70 pounds and you can fit into the jeans. That's when you can get some big girl clothes. Fair. Solid roast, but fair. So then her older sister emailed me, and she's like, why did you tell A that her clothes were ugly? And I was like, I said our clothes were ugly. It's all of these emails. And she threatened to beat me up. Then I said, how are you going to beat me up? You don't come to school because you're cavorting with high school boys. Her sister was a little older. I think she was like an 8th grader. And then she was like, that's effed up of you to say. She called me a bitch. I called her a whore. And then A printed out the email, but only the part of the email where I called her sister a name. She like literally cut it with scissors and fucking first period. And she made it seem like I had just called her sister names, but I only called her sister a name because she called me a name, which is fair. Anyway, the girls didn't talk to me for like a year. So then I only had to hang out with the boys. They were actually really great friends, and I got really good at Foursquare, but devastating. Devastating. Anyway, some people, I never apologized for that situation, by the way. Eventually other people, because I maintained, like, I died on that hill. I was like, her sister threatened me, like, she threatens people. Her sister threatens to beat people's ass. Like, I don't know what you want me to, I'm not going to apologize for that. And lo and behold and lo, her sister ended up threatening a bunch more people in the middle school, and then suddenly everybody believed Alexia. So it ended up being fine. It was not the end of the world or anything. But where was I going with this? Oh, yes. Being flued out. No man would ever fly me out. The type of man who's, like, flying bad bitches out, and I think I'm a bad bitch, but, like, the type of man who's flying baddies out, like, expects a baddie to come there and be silent, and I would just rather set myself on fire. Like, I can't put into words enough. Somebody left a comment on a video, like, from a couple weeks ago, and they were like, do you think being smart has hindered you in dating? Yes. I think being kind of a bitch has been a bigger problem, though. Like, just not, like, there are girls out there that will pack throat spray in their bags just to be better at, like, pleasing a man. I honestly don't even feel like shaving my legs. So laborious to bend over. Just not the kind of woman who would, like, come home from a long day and be like, I'm gonna make this man a meal. I love him and I want him to like me. I don't care if he likes me. He should like me. Honestly, I will never forget the first time I went through a breakup and my friend Meg was like, this is going to be really shocking to you, because she's like, I don't think you can fathom that, like, you weren't the dumper in this situation. It was more of a blow to my ego than anything. And I handled that appropriately by sitting in the dark and watching, I think I've told the story before, watching Forgetting Sarah Marshall over and over and over again. I have that movie memorized still to this day. This has been 15 minutes about nothing, but I kind of wanted to do a lighthearted episode because the other couple episodes were so silly. And back to the whole man thing, like, do you think there's a situation where a man's putting me on a plane and then he's like, oh, because I paid for this, like, we have to do something in the hotel room? I don't want to come to your hotel room. I don't want to see your nude form. How grotesque. And I'm just, no. So that's never happened to me. I assume it's fun for the girls that get to go. But, yeah, do I think being smart has turned some guys off? Yeah, men were meaner to me after I entered law school. Like, really mean in a hostile way. I think in one of my earliest episodes I told this, but, like, me and my girlfriends were at the bar. And these guys were being super nice, buying us drinks. So nice about what we were wearing because we all looked very, very pretty. And then he said, how did you meet your friends? And I said, oh, I met them in law school. And the first thing out of his mouth was, so you think you're better than me? And I was like, huh, what? And he was like, so you think you're better than me? And he starts like yelling at me and getting in my face. And then the bartender had to get involved and was like, hey, like, you can't fucking yell at women like that. But he just got so hostile. And that's pretty much how it goes. Some men don't like that when you're a woman and you're in more like male-dominated fields or like in a position of social power because of your profession, or like it's kind of clear that you're not a dummy. They get really hostile. At the same time that they do get hostile when you also believe in things like feminism. And I'm a wicked feminist. I'm not a nasty feminist. Like, I just don't... Please, I would tell a random person on the street, like, you're doing a weaponized incompetence. You think I'm the type of girl who's in the bar bathroom at the club telling someone to break up with their man? I will tell that to someone in the grocery store. A couple days ago, this man was like, not his wife was just pushing a cart full of kids, and he's just like on his phone dissociating, and she's like stressed out trying to get him to help. And I was like, sir, look at your like, So, no, that's probably hindered me more than everything. I'm kind of proud of that though. Never change. Incapable of it, really. Anyway, I'm thinking about flued out culture because some people really live like that. I'm not going to rehash this whole drama on TikTok. It's too much to say. Do you ever think about the fact that some people call men daddy, like, in seriousness? Okay, no, I have to rehash the TikTok drama. So this guy, who's cousins with Young Vaughn, who's a rapper, and also a gang member, he's dead, and probably looking up at us because... No, and don't say, oh, wow, that's a terrible thing to say. Even amongst his peers, he was noted for being, like, particularly, vicious and psychotic, and just, like, he was taking lives in a way that, like, I don't think he was, like, had to do it like that, or just had to do it at all. Like, it was for the fuck of it. Like, there's this whole, like, there's this meme about, like, King Bomb as a serial killer. I don't know. What do I know about gang culture? But... yeah, he was not a great person. So this guy who's like cousins or affiliated with King Von from like O Block in Chicago is basically cavorting with all of these girls, and all of these girls are coming to TikTok and telling their respective stories about how he's telling them to fly down to Atlanta because of course this is Atlanta. And then he's like dubbing them because he has so many girls on rotation, he doesn't have to pay attention to the girl who booked her own Spirit flight to come see him because he's not paying for any of this, which is kind of funny. He's also a scammer and bragging about the felonies he's committing on the internet. This episode might be too inappropriate to put on YouTube. Anyway, he's talking about who he's, you know, cavorting with, and this girl, we only know about this situation because this girl comes to TikTok and said, you know, I flew down there for Valentine's Day, he didn't end up meeting up with me. The girl that he was with for Valentine's Day ends up, you know, telling her story, and she's like, oh my god, because he was with me, and he is very active on his TikTok replying to all of these allegations, and he's like, mind you, this is a girl who got my name tatted day 6 of us talking. I can't even begin to piece together what that means. I don't... Truly, the mentality of, like, putting a man's name on your body is so wildly insane to me. But she has him saved in her phone as Dada, with 2 hearts. You know what I'm going to say here. Oh, I lost the mic. Her body is so wildly insane. Like, okay. Well, that's cool that it's playing back. Yep. So, okay, so I said so wildly insane to me. Insane, like, so wildly insane to me. Nope, that's not the mic. Stranger, stranger than better. Okay, come on, new microphone. Let's snap in. Just so crazy, so beyond the pale. You know what I'm gonna say. Performative, finish the sentence, class. Back shots. Yeah. It's so crazy. Like, daddy... I get it. Not everyone has a dad. And nobody can... You know, it's not anything to laugh at that you don't have one and that you're trying to cope with that as an adult. But dada feels particularly insidious because even a 9-year-old is too grown for that. Who says dada? Toddlers. And then they eventually go to daddy. Calling a grown man dada in any circumstance, like it, I want you to know that my stomach is turning like I just chugged dairy. Like I just took a full gallon of whole milk and just slurped it down. Like Homelander. Dada is what... Back to baddies and the little voices that they do to appeal to men. Oh, you know, full circle. We have come back to this. That's what it involves. Like, it involves acting childlike in, like, an authority thing, and I just don't... Oh, I can see the face that I'm making in the camera. By the way, check out the behind the scenes for this on YouTube, which also includes the full podcast, by the way. Like, you can watch the full podcast on YouTube. Wow. It's just very, like... It's very dark. It's very wicked. It's not good. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time analyzing this because I'm so stuck on this, and I feel bad. Perhaps this is not what we all want to listen to, but, like, it keeps me up, like, dada. I've always thought the tattoo thing was crazy, because especially coming from situations where, like, you know that man is not marrying you, it feels very, like, pimps branding their human trafficking victims. You know what I mean? There's a specific thing that happens, and I'm not saying anything against sex work, but there's, like, a known phenomena where, you know, pimps, in order to keep control over the girls, will have them get brands in very auspicious places, which not only signals to, like, other pimps, like, their ownership and who they belong to, but it would make it very difficult for them to reintegrate into the normal world. Like, they're not getting these tattoos on, like, a concealable location. It's usually on, like, you know, face, hands, and there's this trend of, like, men demanding that. Kind of the same men that, honestly, I would believe are also into, like, illegal activities like pimping. Demanding that women brand themselves for him in the same way as, like, the personal harem thing. Like, there was a pretty good YouTube video. Her name's Wild Heart Waves. I like that one video that she did about Blueface and Krishan, but if you go to her channel and you're like, she talks about a lot of femininity stuff, Alexi, like, why are you watching this? I don't agree with all of her content. I'm not endorsing everything that she puts out there, but it was very, very interesting to see the connection that, like, Blueface has had with, like, pimping and California culture and the way that he treats Krishan specifically. It feels like one of those things for, like, that I talked about in that Groomed for Abuse episode, which I think is one of my favorite episodes that I've ever made because I just reference it so often, and I think it comes, you know, it keeps coming back again and again and again. But in the Groomed for Abuse episode, talking about the way that, like, really dangerous power dynamics are introduced as, like, love or something aspirational, and it's definitely this and I'm not saying getting a tattoo of your partner is inherently, like, this sort of power dynamic thing, but in the context of like a man demanding, because this guy, this like O-Block guy is constantly requesting that this girl that he's talking to within like days, because she got the tattoo on day 6. I guess I should say to her credit, she's claiming that she didn't get the tattoo for him, that suspiciously her best friend has the exact same first name and that she got the tattoo for her best friend. And I don't think that sounds believable, but she's very, like, all these people are living like Justin LA Boy quotes. So they're kind of doing this thing where she's like, if you're going to sell me a dream, I'm going to sell you a dream first. And I don't speak toxic relationships, so I don't even truly understand what that means. But for all intents and purposes, like, she got the tattoo of his name, and whether or not she actually meant it for him, like, she meant it for him to understand that it was for him, and she sent him the picture as like, look what I got done for you. And he very much wanted that from her, and the other women that have come forward, it seems like he wants that from them as well. And it just feels very like, I'm always gonna have a tie to you because I'm always on your body, in the same way that like I'm always gonna have a tie to you because we've had a child together, and how like these babies are being used to form unholy matrimonies with men who just kind of know that they can always get sexual access to their baby mother. Not to be the friend who's too woke, but to also always be the friend who's too woke. There's just something very, I don't know, there's something very dark about it in this particular circumstance. And the way that it gets like normalized and laughed off is like, oh, this man who has like no real ties to you is demanding that you get these very visible and very, like loud and noticeable tattoos of himself so he can always feel like he has a permanent place to you, but he's not willing to make a real social commitment that would be recognized, like, I don't know, marriage or not cheating, kind of like the barest of minimums stuff. Yeah, so that's that on that. In pop culture news, Avatar: The Last Airbender is coming back. And the premise of this earthbender airbender is that they essentially have to fix what's the world that is now cataclysmic because of the actions of Korra. And let me say this, if you thought that this was going to turn into a rant defending Korra, let me just say that I hated that show. I loved Avatar: The Last Airbender. I know exactly where I was when I watched the premiere of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, I remember it so clearly. It's such a pivotal memory for me. I was 7 years old. I remember exactly where I was when I watched the final episode, and I watched it every year up until I was like 17. Then I remember when I graduated college, I was in like, it was this summer after 1L, and I watched it again, and I was just, it's one of the greatest shows. I know it is the greatest show of all time. It's just such a beautiful, well done show. So I was so disappointed by Korra. It felt like such a bastardization of that. And I think if I had seen Korra separately as something that wasn't connected to Avatar: The Last Airbender, I would have enjoyed it more. But it's sort of the way that I felt about the later seasons of Game of Thrones, where it was like knowing, like, the last seasons of Game of Thrones weren't bad. The last season was bad. But before that, like season like 5 and on, they weren't bad. It's just when you watch seasons like 1, 2, 3, 4, and the writing and the plots and like the political intrigue, like, you kind of slowly watch it degrade in quality. And that's how I felt about watching Korra. That's kind of how I felt about watching any Avatar project that isn't the original. And I understand that the original creators have had like varying degrees of involvement, like the live action, they ended up walking out of that one. I liked the comics. I read them when I was younger. I didn't think that they were, I don't know. I don't know if it was like a lightning in a bottle situation, or if they just sort of like struck gold, or if it's just like the beauty of the story, like a young boy dealing with the genocide of his people and the weight of the world, while also navigating being a preteen and finding hope in an incredibly hopeless society. Just can't be replicated to those same stakes again. You know what I mean? Like, I think there is kind of an issue in storytelling where once the character, like, saves the world from, like, the truest, biggest evil, like, nothing is going to seem as big of a deal, and so maybe every fight after that doesn't also have to be some sort of measurement up to, like, the truest, greatest evil, but that can still be a great story in and of itself. Maybe that's the issue that I had with Korra. But I just couldn't get into it. And I'm really, really hoping that I can get into the third one. But honestly, I'd be fine. Nobody can take away how much I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. Specifically, Uncle Iroh and Zuko, greatest character arc of all time. The fact that he got sick from doing one good deed is so fun. Like, they will never be able to take away how funny that is. I hope it's good. I hope it's not bad. At this point, 28 minutes in, you're probably wondering, are you going to talk about Kendrick Lamar? Okay, I have a confession. I was so intent on talking about it, and then I watched it so many times, and I made a bunch of notes, but then a few days ago I realized I'm not in the mood to discuss it anymore. The moment has passed. I don't feel the same passion that I had. I should have recorded it right then and there, but I didn't. And now the mood is fleeting. Remember that little speech I gave about how I don't do this to make any money, and this is not my job? The great thing about this being a hobby is that the parts of the hobby that are not as... I don't want to do it. I'm sorry. That's the realest thing I can tell you. I could try to give you a half-baked excuse about how when you have ADHD, like, it's hard to do things that you don't want to do, but I'm just going to be real. Like, I just can't do it. And it kind of made me remember how annoyed I am with Kendrick Lamar just, like, as a person. Just don't understand why he would put that rapist on his album. I've never truly been able to let that go. So I don't think I can do it. Or maybe I will do it at a later date. Don't be mad. Or be mad, but don't tell me about it. Tell a group chat. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know I'm equally as disappointed. This hurt both of us. It's not me, it's you. Oh wait, no. It's not you, it's me. Yeah. I hope we can still be friends. Yeah. I just couldn't do that one. Seriously though, I just couldn't do, I don't know. I was like, Let's see. There was something that I wrote down earlier this week. Oh, stan culture. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the skill of just not being baited into everything on the internet as the world continues to descend into very frightening political chaos. And as we really have to work to cultivate hope as like a personal practice, I think that there are just some things that we're no longer in the position to be able to afford. I cannot afford to pay into rage bait the same way that I could perhaps when I wasn't as worried about like, what does my career look like as an African American professional in the heyday of my career, when Black people who have had to jump through so many hoops and work so much are just getting fired like that, and now everyone's saying the quiet part out loud that like, well, we just, it was a diversity, equity, and inclusion thing. There's no way that you could get there on your own. When that sort of thing is going on, when like all my friends in STEM and law and the Forest Service and sign language interpreting and medicine, I think I already said that in kind of STEM, and logistics and education and environmental science and journalism are really like trying to piece together what is going to go on. I just don't think that I can engage in like low-level fruit, which is, I know I've said this like a million times, but like pulling back from TikTok, and I feel like people don't even understand the way that they buy into things. So I'll just use the Grammys as an example. Cowboy Carter by Beyonce won Best Album of the Year, an award that in many people's opinions, including my own, although I have to give the caveat that I've never actually watched the Grammys and I really just don't give a fuck about the Grammys, but is long overdue. And that sort of sparked this online conversation that like, oh my god, the stans are so mad, the stans are just so mad. And I think caring about stan culture as a non-stan is a skill issue. You have to understand that some of these stans are either children or very disenfranchised adults. There is a YouTuber, her name is Kimberly Nicole Foster. I think she No, I think she runs the YouTube channel For Harriet. And she had an experience where she was talking about the Barbs, Nicki Minaj, and her fan base, and the Barbs doxed her. Like, they leaked a lot of her personal information. It got very scary, very frightening. And so Kimberly Nicole Foster ended up hiring an attorney and using, you know, her resources to essentially track these people down. And she did a little video. No, she didn't do a video. She did some tweets about it. And then I think she mentioned it in a video, although candidly, when I was trying to make a TikTok about this like a few weeks ago, I think she had taken it down. I know at a different point she mentioned that she just kind of wanted to move on from the whole situation, so I won't try to rehash it again, other than to point out that in the course of her investigation, she ended up discovering that almost every single person who was doxing her and sending her death threats was a fully grown adult. When I say fully grown adult, she was talking about people in their 30s, 40s, like people who have children of their own, who had mortgages, who are very well-established adults who just simply had nothing else going for them. I shouldn't say well-established because they had nothing else going for them but their commitment to like Nicki Minaj idolatry and stan culture. And then that sparked this very interesting debate on Twitter where so many other big creators who had been doxxed, I think this was like 2018, 2019, if I'm remembering correctly, had come forward and they're like, yeah, I've also tracked the people down too. These were not kids. And I think a lot of people have the opinion that like these are kids who are, and yeah, some of it is like, you know, little kids just sort of running amok when their parents should be taking the iPad and they're like saying and doing these inappropriate things and they're like, oh, like kill yourself, because they don't really understand the full impact of what those words mean. But some of these people are, you know, staying up till 1 a.m. and they know they have to punch in at 6. And for what? Like, it's quite frightening. And this is who you're arguing with. Like, you will never be able to get a rational opinion from someone who's dedicated an entire online presence to worshiping any celebrity, even the celebrities that I love, like Beyonce. Like, the Beehive acts completely crazy for a woman who is a billionaire and is completely comfortable and who does not need an online army to go and fight these invisible battles. Like, when they were attacking like all of the women that Jay-Z reportedly like cavorted with, Beyonce didn't need you to do that. I think she got her lick back on Lemonade and probably whatever she put Jay through in the house, which was probably nothing because, you know, he met her when she was a teenager. That's neither here nor there. God, she makes love sound so frightening, because for her, I think it is. But like, this idea that you can get an informed opinion from like Swiftie Lover or like Beyonce Till I Die, like, you are arguing with the protagonist from Swarm, which that show was only good because Dominique Fishback is an incredible actress and I want to see more of her. But to me, being shocked about what like a stan does or says and then getting worked up about it on the internet and then engaging in think pieces, even if you're not, you know, making these think pieces yourself, because most people are not creators online, just getting worked up about it and so upset about it and like, I can't believe this is the state of the world. And it's like, I can't believe that this is something that you think is worth caring about, something worth pondering. You have to pick and choose. Like, it's the digital equivalent of finding someone who's, you know, behaving inappropriately on the street. Maybe they're having an episode, maybe they're just kind of, you know, not a great person to be around, and then walking up to them and handing them a mic and being surprised when they start talking about the fact that like politicians are lizards in human skin suits, and then being like, can you believe that's their opinion? Absolutely yes, I can. I actually would be more shocked if they started telling you something like that was on this plane of reality. Why upset yourself on purpose? And I think a lot of people have or just maybe it's what I'm engaging with online in the limited ways that I engage online. A lot of people are recognizing like the outright rage bait and, oh my God, I just lost accidentally unplugged it. This thing is so sensitive. Online, engage online. Oh my God. In the limited ways that I engage online. Whoa. Oh my God, what did I do? Whoa. Okay. Please just record. please. Yeah, in the limited ways that I engage online, to, you know, not platform Nazis by getting in debates with them, not caring about, like, you know, what obvious racists who are just trying to use Black outrage for clout. But I think it's also the little things of, like, these pop culture debates, in the sense that, like, I care about celebrities because they gauge the cultural temperature, and things that are being used to usher in like far right content, like, you know, anti-Blake Lively stuff. And I don't think Blake Lively is a good person. I think she's a racist, to be clear, and I don't like her at all. I also recognize that if people ignore sexual harassment because, you know, her abuser is attractive and because she has a bad past, then any woman who's claiming to be assaulted will simply be labeled as like, oh, well, she's not a good person and we don't have to care, and that endangers me, right? And because I was never stupid enough to fall for the Megan Thee Stallion hate, clearly, by my shirt. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm wearing my favorite Megan Thee Stallion tee. I'm just sort of comfy on this little recording Sunday, because I was always cognizant of what was happening with Amber Heard and just the Darvo tactics employed by Johnny Depp. And maybe the required reading should be the right-wing misinformation campaign that Johnny Depp was able to, unfortunately, successfully weaponize against her. I'm not going to, you know, I don't have to like Blake Lively personally to recognize that what is going on with her is completely wrong and out of pocket and completely foul. But a lot of these pop culture things will sort of work to usher in these, like, they'll mirror what's happening politically and usher in these debates. And I just don't think you need to upset yourself in that way. Because if you want to have something to get upset over, I am going to revisit the hypothetical that I gave many, many episodes ago, because I don't think it was well understood. And that is, would you rather be with the podcaster or the rapper? You know, I went back and I listened to that episode specifically, and honestly, the responses to that are such a great testament to the lies that you'll tell yourself when you want to be more comfortable. Because one thing that I emphasize, so here are the terms. Rule number 1, you can't kill yourself. You will live a long life with him. You will never be able to separate with him. And you will have a son with him who has a 50-50 chance of turning out like his father. Now, you can do one of two things. Oh, and here are the other things. Your friends, family, coworkers all know you're with this person. They all make fun of you. You will never leave them. You can either choose to be with a podcaster who makes right-wing, you know, misogynistic, red pill content about women. It's not successful. It's not lucrative. He doesn't get any listeners except for the people who know that you're with him and they hate watch. And occasionally, like, something that he posts on a 4chan forum really pops up, and maybe he goes from having like 30, you know, listeners that month to maybe like 120, and that's being very generous. Or you can be with the rapper who makes incredibly misogynistic music. He's doing money spreads with your checking account. He's equally as misogynistic. Again, he's not getting any streams on SoundCloud. He talks about, like, the Illuminati and not buying into the thing. And it's so interesting that so many people chose the rapper, and they were like, because at least he's not, like, as bad as the podcaster. And it's like, no, I couldn't have been more clear that they're both misogynistic. Like, they're both embarrassing you publicly. They're both not making any money. Like, they're both a version of hell. I'm just personally interested in, like, what would you rather choose? And so many people told me that they'd rather choose the rapper because the rapper wouldn't be as bad because the podcast bro hates women. And I'm like, I don't understand what part of, like, this man is rapping, like, all the bitches love me, all the bitches want to suck my dick. I hate women. Shut the fuck up, bitch. Get to the kitchen. Like, that's his stuff, right? He's rapping about cheating on you in the house where you're the person paying all of the bills, because in either scenario, whether he's the podcast bro or the podcast or the rapper, he's not getting a real job, right? Like, you financially support him and you've still allowed him to get you pregnant. And if you're a boy listening to this, he still got you pregnant like a seahorse. Gay rights. So I just wanted to make that clear in the hypothetical in case you're still thinking about it. Like, either scenario's hell, and again, you cannot kill yourself and he's not going to die. You will live a long life together. Just, like, what version of hell would you rather put up with? Like, the podcast or the rapper? Let me know if you have any further questions. I hope you liked this longer episode. I will see you next Monday. Please feel free to send in podcast topics. I plan to get back to more seriousness soon, but I just wanted, like, I don't know, a little bit of levity, a little bit of like checking in and chatting, like, how are we? It's been a hard week, but March is coming up soon, and then after March is April Fool's Day, which I have another good April Fool's Day episode coming. I loved the Gollum episode. That was so fun for me. Okay, until I talk to you soon. Love you. Bye. And that's that on that. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It means so much to me, and I'll see you next Monday.